I have two guests. I have Tim Cridland, also known as Zamora the Torture King, and I have Massimo Masuko, the director of the movie Cancer the Forbidden Cures. Um, Tim, all right, let's get this on the road. Let's get the show on the road. Tim, you there?
Okay, I'm here. I'm ready.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem, no problem. It's awesome having you here. Um, what would you tell some like since you can't like see anybody like do any tricks on since it's radio, like some people might be like, hey, how do you know it's really you? Is there like a
How do
way
I
like,
know it's really?
that you
Well,
can?
you can see me on of course if you Google me on or on YouTube, you can find some of my videos. Tim Cridland, Zamora, Torture King, and I've done appearances on TV shows like Ripley's Believe It or Not and Stanley's Superhumans. You can see my website is astoundingshow.com and my blog is zamora.blogspot.com.
Awesome. I
And
love how you
then
pronounce it.
you'll be able to see some of the videos and see what I do. For people who don't know what I do, I do kind of a pain control act. It's based on, at first it was kind of a thing that was in a sideshow. You might be familiar with the idea of somebody laying on a bed of nails, somebody in a turban laying on a bed of nails. It's
I might
based
have
on
heard
an
of that.
old thing which was done by people called fakirs, where they would take skewers, long sharpened pieces of wire like sharpened bicycle spokes, and put them through the body. And study this one, doing not just skin, but actually deep muscle. I go through the bicep, right through the middle of the muscle, right through the middle of the arm, and I put one in my mouth,
Oh,
and I push till it pops out underneath my chin.
that
And I've
is
had this.
unbelievable. I think I
This
found
is
one
done.
video. Once that oh, wait, what were you saying? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I've also had this tested. I do this as an entertainment. That is, as part of a show to entertain people. I kind of started the sideshow revival in the early 1990s when I did this on Lollapalooza Festival. And but I've also been studied by scientists who are wondering about my pain control abilities and verified that I have the ability to change the way my brain perceives pain.
I wish do that. Here's one video I found. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, I think it's from.
When the stimulus becomes painful,
Do you recall this? It's called the title Samura One Step Beyond.
Yeah, One Step Beyond is a very good video. You can look for it online. They have it's How Things Work. One Step Beyond is a very good video
That is wow.
from
I
a
wish I could
TV
do
show
that.
that I did for Discovery Channel. And it shows also me stepping on red hot metal with my bare feet and some other
What?
feats.
That
Yeah,
is
if you
unbelievable.
follow that, you'll see I'm licking a red hot iron bar and stepping barefoot on red hot metal.
Wow. Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah, so that if somebody wants to see what I do, you can
But instead of
find
being
that
flame
online.
grilled,
It's Zamora, Torture King, One Step Beyond, and usually you find that on, as I said, howthingswork.com.
Wow.
And so some of this is on my website as well. I want to say this is mainly starting for entertainment purposes. I read about this type of thing when I was very young, and it was in a book mostly about magic tricks and things like that. But within this, they had descriptions of people in other countries who were doing these astounding feats that did not have any trickery to them. There were no mirrors and wires. It was the real thing, and things like sword swallowers and also people putting skewers through their body in India and Middle Eastern countries. And I found this intriguing for a couple of reasons. One is that it was absolutely real. The other one is
Wow.
kind of, as I said, kind of visceral. It's kind of just appeals to kind of a sensationalist nature, but it also is something that has serious applications as well. So when I do this, I lead with it being an entertaining act, even though it's kind of a shock entertainment, like going on a roller coaster is entertaining or going to a scary movie. But there's a serious part of it as well that people can use in their own lives to control how their inner senses work. because what I'm doing is basically controlling my reactions to external stimuli, in this case pain, and by changing the internal reaction, it actually changes the whole experience.
It's also if you don't think about it,
therefore
right?
I'm able to, well, it's in a different way. It's basically changed internally, and the whole thing is it changes the whole feedback pattern of pain. And when people say, well, like, I feel no pain, that's not necessarily true. I do have sensations, but I'm able to control it and basically turn it down so it's very minimal. And I have to be aware of sensations because pain is important. It is a warning system, and I'm aiming to minimize any physical damage. I'm going through parts of my body that contain very few nerve bundles and very few arteries. And so I have to be aware of exactly where I'm going. So I do have an awareness, but it's not what I think a normal person would call pain. But I do have awareness of sensations and can control it, which I've shown and demonstrated in some of these. In the video in One Step Beyond, they have me tested by a scientist at a UCLA pain clinic named Dr. Joshua Prager, who verifies this.
Also, chiropractor here, Dr. Josh Hander from New York City.
That was in the Stanley Superhumans. He tested me with a different device. And all of these devices they've used to test my pain threshold, I've been able to take it to the limit. No illusion or magic. To the top of the dial. I'm actually watching a man. And the Prager at UCLA said if they went any further with it, I'd have tissue damage. So they can't go any further. Also, Prager put me for a different TV show into what's called a functional MRI, which scanned my brain while I was in pain, which proved absolutely that the part of my brain that he said reacts to or suffers from pain is inactive when I'm in pain, that I'm perceiving this sensation of pain, but I'm just not suffering from it.
Wow. And well, this was hard for me to believe. I don't have the channel, unfortunately, but like, I've seen videos of, and this is a little bit more snip of the video when you were at the chiropractor.
Pressure.
Yeah,
every square inch of human skin
this was on Stanley's Superhumans.
Pain receptors. There's certain areas.
And I had on that show, I had Stan Lee declare me a superhuman. And who am I to argue with Stan Lee?
This is unbelievable. The PSI is increasing. Wow.
He is literally off the charts.
Yeah, they put a device that would increase in a very localized area, increase pressure.
Wow. I cannot have that ability.
Onto my spine.
What does that say?
And push it in and keep increasing the pressure until it went completely to the limit of the machine. And
wow. Like not to be like I had to like not to be like gross to the audience, but like as for educational purposes, this is like it's an astounding ability you have, Tim.
Thank you. I will say, it is very sensational demonstrations. This is part of it. What I'm doing is it's in a very sensational, dramatic way, demonstrating that there is the ability to control your inner mind. There's a part of it that is controllable, and that gives you the ability to control how you react to the outer world.
Wow. Well, I think a few times whenever I'm such in a hurry for something, I could bump my leg or my arm on a table, but like I'm so in a hurry, I'm so focused on something, I might have like bruised my table or something and my arm on the table, and like I don't think about it. And like,
well, that is actually one technique you can use for pain control. That would be called attention redirection, because what's going on there is that you have your attention focused on something completely. You don't pay attention to the pain. You have an awareness of it, but you have something else on your mind that's taking your attention, and your mind can only pay attention to a limited amount of things at a time. And if you can learn to control where your attention is directed, then you can control your sensation of pain if you have it. When I'm going to go into pain, this is an advantage I have, is usually it would be the exact opposite. The anticipation of pain for most people increases the feeling of pain. But because I'm trained and I know what's coming, I know if something painful is going to happen, I'm able to prepare for that and control my attention.
Wow.
And this is one thing I've been able to teach to people very, very quickly, that just even a limited shift in attention inside your mind can change the experience of pain. So that's something very simple that works for pain control.
Wow. You were before the show started. Can you tell a little bit of what led up to what you were like how what made you go like where you are now? You would tell me like when you were young, etc., and then you like history goes from there.
Well, I read about this, and as I said, I was kind of interested in these magic tricks as some young people are, and I became more fascinated by the real feats, which were kind of shocking that I only read about, but these were kind of a lost art, and I just had a fascination with it, and I knew that part of it was self-hypnosis. This was an aspect of it, and I began to research things like that. Like what was lucky for me, I lived in a very isolated place in Washington State, but my dad was a college professor, and it was a small college town. And I actually had the second largest university. It was a university. I had the second largest university in the state of Washington. So I had a lot of access to information and books on all kinds of things. So I would go to the university library, even though I was pretty young, and find these books on things like self-hypnosis, and taught some of that to myself, which I knew was
Speaking of hypnosis, that reminds me of Michael C. Anthony. He came to our campus not too long ago. You ever heard about him?
I don't know Michael C. Anthony. Is he a stage hypnotist?
Well, he came to our campus, and like basically it was like an event where we were like in a sky room, which is basically like an auditorium in a way. Yes. And he performed on stage. He made like a bunch of people like sit down and then like stare in his hand, do some tricks there.
That's stage hypnosis. It sounds
yes.
like, and I know this is very popular with campus entertainment. And this is another example. It's something that you can do, something that's kind of fun for entertainment. There's a very serious aspect to that as well. The techniques that a stage hypnotist uses are the same techniques that can be used in therapeutic situation. It's just the setting and the outcome that you desire are different. So this is all the things like martial arts, hypnosis, certain religious rituals all have the commonality of the switch of the focus of attention. When you're going to a hypnotic state, you switch your attention dramatically. When you're going to certain religious states, you're concentrating and focusing your attention on different things. When you're doing martial arts, you're changing your awareness of your body. And this is the commonality of it all. All these things have the ability to change how your body acts and reacts in situations. Wow. And so whether it's I would also say one of the most intriguing people I know wrote this book called, he was like the dean of stage hypnosis, a man named Orman McGill, who kind of invented the concept of the modern stage hypnotic show. Also was very interested in these kind of fakir pain control feats, and he's one of the people who influenced me with some books that he wrote on performing these genuine mind stunts. He had the interest in hypnosis, but also of the kind of strange, what would be called liminal mental abilities as well. And so there's all kinds of directions you can go with this. If I were to do a show, I have done shows at colleges and universities, and I do a very kind of like, scream and yell and over the top entertainment show.
Oh, wow.
But there are people who've come to me and they want to know about the pain control aspect, and I can take them into a more of a relaxed, one-on-one situation and give them a kind of guide them through some techniques of pain control. And it can be not just pain control, but ways to get over things like anxiety and stress and things like this. This is all, basically what I'm showing is there's a kind of a loophole in what's called behaviorism. Behaviorism means that you're conditioned by your outside environment. It's over the thing where they put a rat in a box with an electric shock and food and a light, which is like basically our whole life. We're kind of getting like rewarded and punished, and supposedly we'll act and react according to the reward and punishment. I'm showing that there's more to that you have control how you react to these situations, so you have a way out of the conditioning of everyday life, whether that's if it's conditioned and created states of anxiety that you feel trapped by, or states of stress or states of pain. You do have a choice.
Unfortunately, the stage thing didn't work out for me and a bunch of other people, and a bunch of people are calling it fake. But I'm like skeptical, like James Randi is. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, I know James Randi. I'm so skeptical. I'm skeptical of James Randi. I actually wrote an article that was critical of James Randi.
What?
It's published in a magazine called The Anomalist that you can look up online. If you go through my name and James Randi, you'll find the article. And yeah, a lot of skepticism, I feel, is just another belief system. And, you know, it's good to be skeptical, but you've got to be skeptical of your own beliefs as well. And there's things like, call it it's a logic thing where you find the evidence you're looking for. You believe something and you go looking for the evidence you want to find, and you have a tendency to find that. And that's true whether you're somebody who's looking for psychic ability or somebody who's looking to prove that psychics are fake. You will find exactly what you're looking for. The abilities of the mind, I think, can go beyond, need to be explored, and I feel a lot of what James Randi does, because he's a magician, is basically for his own publicity. It's kind of what he does for a job. It's kind of like, here's James Randi, and some of it is, although he is exposing some frauds, of course, like Peter Popoff, who was the faith healer, that he is also kind of blocking the ability to seriously scientifically investigate kind of paranormal mind abilities. I've also friends with a man in Las Vegas named Colonel John Alexander, who was involved in the military's remote viewing program, and all kinds of strange things. He has assured me that he has experienced the ability to bend metal, you know, the psychic metal bending, which Randi has. He's seen this himself and done it himself, and it's a trainable ability, he says. And he's like you can look him up. He was a colonel in the
something about Skinwalker as well.
Yeah, he's tied in with the Skinwalker Ranch. He was part of in Las Vegas, there was a multi-millionaire who had a group that was investigating all kinds of paranormal claims, and it was National Institute for Discovery Science. And the Skinwalker Ranch is a ranch it's in Utah, where all kinds of strange things have been happening, and they've been monitoring that for many years. And there's a book about that written by George Knapp, who was a news broadcaster in Las Vegas, actually a Peabody winning news broadcaster. It's a very interesting place. But John Alexander is somebody who's a very serious scientist, a very serious military man, and takes the paranormal abilities very seriously. And
coast to coast, AM. And
you can find him.
And George Norrie, yes.
Yep, you can find him all over. He's got, if you can find his site, if you look to Colonel John Alexander, he's got a website, and he's got some papers you can download there. And he's actually going around traveling and seeing. Have you heard of John of God at all?
No, I haven't.
A guy in Brazil doing some very bizarre surgeries on people with no anesthesia, which I'm fascinated by and have heard about for quite a long time. And you can see videos of that. But he's doing things, I could say, somewhat like I'm doing, but to other people, where he'll like just stick knives into people who are this is part of some healing thing he does. And of course people are all upset by this, but I find it very intriguing, and John Alexander has gone down and looked into that. John Alexander got in touch with me when I did a show in Las Vegas, and he was in the audience, and I had no idea. And he wanted to talk to me about using this as a technique for because he works with the special forces still, and the special forces, they need to know techniques for endurance and surviving incredibly intense situations. So I was using pain control techniques that could be used by people in the military, people in special forces. So he contacted me, and I was quite surprised by that, because I went to a place to go see him, and he already knew who I was. So but again, always good to be skeptical, but make sure you be skeptical of your own skepticism, because it can block some abilities too.
Oh, because if you're like too skeptical, then it will close some of your like mind.
Well, this just I would say there's this. If people will debate this, there's as I said, be skeptical enough to be skeptical of your own beliefs. Be skeptical to, it's good. It's easy to be skeptical of other people's beliefs and what other people claim, but you've got to be skeptical of what you're believing as well. Like all the time, you've got to question yourself. And
Yes.
and I'm just afraid that people will kind of go into what I would call fundamentalist skepticism, where they're true disbelievers, and they're just like, well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And they're not looking for anything, and they're looking to dismiss things, and you're not going to find things unless you look for them. And there's some, one thing we know for sure is that there is more to the world than we know. This is how it is all the time in scientific history. There's always this belief, well, we pretty much know everything right now, or pretty much on top of it. Then it's getting more and more, there's a revolution and a turnover of the old ideas, and they go, well, what we wrote about 10 years ago, well, that's really not true anymore, and they've changed it. So things are constantly training, and knowledge has to be completely open, and the more you learn, the more questions it opens up. So
does that go for conventional wisdom too? Because they something about like a car may not run on water, or I don't know if you've heard of Stanley Meyer, by any chance? It's one of those suppressed energies, and Nikola Tesla.
I'm familiar with all of these type of suppressed energies. Once again, it's like a thing that needs to be, as I said, you do need skepticism, but you can't dismiss all of this out of hand. But you do need to be very careful. Cars running on water, getting energy from unlikely places. This is people have been searching for this and making claims about this for a long, long time. There's a belief, the universe is filled with energy. It's just like vibrating with energy, and you just have to tap into it.
But like nobody should be killed for that, because like Stanley Meyer ended up being poisoned by two guys, and they're still out there, by the way. Those two guys, I don't know if they work for NATO or whatever, but they were like entrepreneurs, and they like put I think he put uranium in his cranberry juice and ended up poisoning him. Even if he was a fraud, I'm not gonna kill somebody for that. That's just wrong. That's just stupid.
Yeah, I don't know the full story of it, but as I said, it's like the claims of doing what would be called over-unity energy, over-unity motors. You have to be careful about that, because people have talked about that for a long time. But at the same time, I think it's something that you have to also keep an open mind to, that eventually somebody can make a breakthrough, and the person who's most likely can be somebody who's working outside of the current system. This is kind of the whole side of it. There are possibilities of breakthroughs outside the system. So,
and the same goes for medicine too. That's what Massimo. That's what that movie is. 78 minutes. You can even see it on YouTube. It was made like in 2010, I believe. 2008, 2010. Most likely 2010. So, talk about your talent in depth and the show Stanley Superhumans.
The show Stanley Superhumans was. I've done some shows that kind of built up to that, because I was kind of putting my ability out there. As I said, I first did it as a type of entertainment, but I said there was a serious side to it. And there were shows like this where I was trying to, luckily because of the tie-in with some superhuman movies like X-Men and things like that people had an interest in superhuman abilities, or seemingly superhuman abilities, or unusual abilities that people can achieve. And there was a TV show that they put together before that called Extraordinary People, which was a British TV show.
Oh.
And the same people who produced that, they were trying to do this like a long bit, because that was just a one-time show. And then years later, they had this idea for doing a whole format of like, a multi-episode series, and pitched that with the host of Stanley Superhumans was actually somebody I've known for a little while because he used to work in a show that I did, Daniel Smith, as a contortionist.
Yes,
And
I've heard of him.
and there were these on the internet, all of these lists of people with real superhuman abilities. And luckily, they were able to pitch this to have Stan Lee on board, because I gave it a lot of credibility. And so finally, I got, this is weird, I was on tour with the show when I was called in to go and film this thing in New York, where I'm not from New York. They had this thing filmed in New York, and the reason was it was how they, the part of the country they were in, and I was traveling on the East Coast at the time. And that one, so I said I've done some testing before with different devices. Devices I've had tests done with include ones that generate heat and cold. Dr. Prager in UCLA would put these things on my fingertips that would become incredibly hot or incredibly cold, and tested my reaction to that. He also did ones with electrical stimulation. There were certain types of electricity that stimulated specific nerves, and this was also on the fingertips. And each type of pain is different. This is something that's not just one type of pain. There's like pain from heat, there's pain from the electricity, there's pain from the pricking of pins, there's crushing pain and things like this, and each pain is specifically different, and each time I deal with pain I have to kind of calibrate myself to it. And this one that they did on Stanley Superhumans was of intense pressure in a localized area.
Wow.
And this was something I actually had some experience with, because I've done these bed of nails stunts like a lot. And when I'm doing this bed of nails stunts, and the whole thing is there's physics behind it, but it is an incredibly, it's not a comfortable thing. I had it where I had a car drive over me a couple of times, and you can find that on the internet as well. In fact, on my website, there's a video of that. If you go to my website, astoundingshow.com, on the front page, there's a video from Ripley's Believe It or Not TV show where I have a car drive over the top of me. And that, I've got and I would have on stage, I would have 4 of the biggest guys in the audience step on top of me while I'm laying in a bed of nails, and it would be, so over 1,000 pounds each time. So I felt what happened on Stanley Superhumans to me was not that big a deal. It's something I've experienced before. The pressure of 1,000 pounds of weight on top of me while nails are pushing on my back was pretty similar. So I felt, and I was able to show on that one. I was able to do very, very simple, without much difficulty, adjust to that type of stimuli, and took the machine all the way to the limit. I think you can go on YouTube and put in that Stanley Superhumans and my name, and you'll find that episode as well. It depends. They're not supposed to be on YouTube, I don't think, but people keep putting them up. So
Yes, and some of them were flagged because people can't stand they don't know. I guess they don't. Yeah, it's like the movie Cannibal Holocaust. It was really disgusting, but it was fake. But it was so good that even people who in the cast, including the director, were all arrested. But there was no murder or anything like that. It's just that the way it looks, and it was done so well that they were in trouble for it.
But I don't know if people are flagging it because it's because of the content, but there might be a copyright infringements. You can see there's the History Channel has a page with where you can see some of the videos for illegally on their page, and sometimes that episode is up there. I have to keep checking back and see when, but they have streaming videos on the History Channel website, and Stanley Superhumans is on the History Channel. So if you look for that, you can see some of the shows for free as well. I think I've got an episode of the TV show on Hulu.com, which I don't remember the name of that one, but it's and then there's one on Netflix. I know for a fact that I'm on a episode of National Geographic's Taboo that's on Netflix called Strange Performers or something like that. So there's ways to see this legally, or also YouTube. Just Google my name, you'll find videos.
Wow, that is unbelievable. what does it take to be good like that, and the process, how hard it really works, and the truth of pain? Like, why is it so hard to do what you do? Like,
Well, most people are, of course, pain. I tell people I don't like pain. People don't like pain. Of course, people have accused me of being somebody who likes pain, but the whole point of my act is that I'm avoiding pain. Strange as it may seem, that I'm rapidly, it's more to do with healing than with injury. I studied techniques of healing, and this is where more information can be found than any other place. And it's about, it might be easier than you think. As I said, one thing you need to learn is that there's, you have more control over your own inner state than you're aware of. So the techniques for me especially were difficult to learn because they were kind of lost. I was learning from
holy man.
there wasn't anybody really to teach me. I had to go and look up medical journals, and wherever I could, I actually had somebody who was sending me information from a mystical group in Jordan, was doing some very extreme demonstrations, and I began to find the source of all of this. The root of it was this technique of Middle Eastern mysticism called Sufism.
Sufism.
There's one particular sect that would do this type of exhibit. Most people are familiar with the whirling dervish, the people who spin around, but there's some that do the skewers of the body, and I was able to find a group of Sufis who were in Northern California at the time that are part of this type of tradition. In the U.S., they're not allowed to do that type of exhibit, but
oh, come on.
They gave me permission. It's because the reason is because in the U.S. people either get fixated by it or afraid of it. They're repelled by it, and it's part of a bigger technique. It's just a small part, of how the mind gets changed. There's just a smaller part of it. So, but they've given me permission to do this. So it's and given me some of the techniques. So I've learned this. I also have done some very extreme things on. I was on this show that was on American movie channel called Freak Show, about a show that's a freak show in Venice Beach. And on this one, I walked barefoot on red hot metal plates.
Ah, yeah.
Well, they're steel metal plates heated up to red heat, and then walking barefoot from like stepping stones. And it was actually the most intense version of that I've ever done. And I got a little more injured than I usually do, but it's like a little less injured than people expected. Well, I'll say a lot less injured than people would expect me to for stepping on hot metal. So,
wow. You ever heard of such thing called Gatka? Gatka? It's all Asian form of combat training. Wooden sticks. Never heard of that?
I don't think I have, but I can look it up. I'm always looking for, information. There's all types of techniques from all types of cultures of overcoming pain and injury. As I said, some of this is from martial arts. We're talking a little bit about the Shaolin Kung Fu techniques of there's a technique they have called iron shirt or iron jacket, which creates temporary immunity to injuries. And there was a stunt I would do where it was a kung fu stunt where I have a big stick broken over my back. And this was something that had, there was a very specific technique to it, and a lot of it had to do with the breathing. And when I first was learning it, there was a part where I forgot, and so I did it on stage, and the stick broke, but I think part of me broke as well, and it seemed like it cracked a rib at least. I never got it.
Ouch.
Never got it checked out, medically, but certainly had all these symptoms of a broken rib, and I just learned that I needed to do something different. I had to figure out what my mistake was, but I did figure that out and went back to doing that. And the thing about what I do, as I said, I do very dangerous things. But to be dangerous, you've got to do dangerous things. You've got to be very safe. So I've got to be very focused.
Safety
And
first.
everything can cause incredible injury. And so I've got to plan everything and think about everything that could go wrong, and plan for everything. And I've got to, I don't drink at all anymore. I used to, but then I didn't do it when I was doing the show. But now I don't even drink it at all anymore, and I just have to keep my mind focused and be alert at all times. It's not something you can take for granted when you're performing these type of feats.
Wow. How can you withstand pain? And like, what's the truth about pain? I heard pain is game, but overall, I think it's like the body's way of telling you something. What's your...
Pain is a very important part. Some people actually accuse me of there's some people who have a neurological difference where they can't feel pain, and that's not what's going on with me. And that's a very dangerous condition, because people who have this condition can injure themselves and not realize it, and then they'll get like an infection, and it's bad news. So, but I have had problems where I've ignored pain too much. I can't manage it and ignore it. But I had a thing where very recently, this is always where injuries happen. I was putting up a show. I wasn't like performing a show, but I was putting the show up, and I fell off a ladder, and the ladder kind of jammed up on my foot, and I thought I'd like pulled a muscle in my foot or something like that, and I walked around on it for 3 weeks before I got it looked at, and it turned out I'd actually broken a bone in my foot. And by that point, it was like, halfway healed. And, but the point is, pain's there to give you, it's like, hey, pay attention. But I was like, okay, well, I can manage this. So the first thing, if you do get an injury, is not to ignore it, but to acknowledge the pain is there, and then find out what the cause is. I say that there is people who have pain that have no cause. They call it pain with a cause from an injury or something like that. You call that acute pain. And that's giving you a warning. But there are people who have chronic pain, which is pain which is there for seemingly no reason, and that can be tied into some type of I wouldn't call it a psychosomatic, would be wrong, but it's beyond. It's a kind of an imbalance in the body and the mind that needs to be adjusted. And some of the techniques I do can help with that. And as I said, more and more people are looking for advice on how to deal with pain, as opposed to the more dramatic things. And I did an interview for Men's Health. Actually, I'll put it up on my blog. I have this at Zamora.blogspot. I'll put up some of my pain control information. If anybody goes to my blog, they can find some of that information already. And I'll put some more up, and that's where I post all the information about that. Zamora at blogspot.com.
That reminds me of, it was on the New York Times. Researchers try to find the gene perception of pain, because apparently there was like the Pakistani kids who would probably like fall off ceilings, and they would break their bones and everything, but they wouldn't feel pain at all, and that was very troubling. Yeah,
someone's just sent me a new article on some pain control pain switch in the mind. I haven't read this fully yet, but yeah, the whole concept of like breaking a bone and not feeling it. This is a bad thing. This is why it's you need to have pain to give you a warning, so you can get yourself looked at and fixed if you're hurt. But as I said, the first thing I do with pain, people ask me, do you ignore the pain? It's like, no, first I acknowledge it and say it's there, and then I change it. This is what I do to it. I can't pretend it's not there, because it's there, and I find out what the reason is. Once I know the reason, then I can change the way I perceive it in my mind.
Wow. Before you go, I want to ask you a few more things. How can you get started with your training, and who do you go to, and how would you improve your ability?
Training, if somebody is interested in pain control, they can email me. My email is zamoraking@aol.com, ZAMORAKING@aol.com, or just look for my website. Google my name, you'll find my website, and my email is on my website and on my Facebook page and everywhere. Make myself very available. So if somebody is suffering from some type of pain, I can talk with you and help you with that. And I'm also myself, I'm continually looking for more new techniques of mental discipline, and I've just heard of one called Nothesia, which I'm studying right now, anesthesia, which is like anesthesia, but it's completely mental anesthesia.
Oh, you
Developed
were saying
by
that,
a
yeah.
person who was able to do surgeries on people with absolutely no anesthesia with these techniques. So I'm studying this right now.
It's unbelievable.
And
The Brazilian surgeon you were saying that he did this and it caused
Brazilian-
controvery.
there's a guy, anesthesia. He's got a clinic in, I believe, in Mexico or somewhere, something like this. There's various clinics for people doing these
Wow.
kind of mental pain control techniques. So this is always a controversy, especially because people are so much pushing, pain control is all about drugs, which is
Not
a
good.
lot of, a lot invested in that. And especially as well, the one thing though is as I've been studying, chronic pain is something that seems to be very resistant to all of the conventional techniques. This is why I said it's something that it probably has more to do with the mind and the body interacting than anything, because when somebody's in chronic pain, they'll even have like a surgery done on them that'll sever nerves, and then the pain will come back, and it'll be resistant to painkillers, and then somebody will be like then addicted to painkillers but still in pain. So
Wow.
the techniques of the mental and kind of mind over matter pain control have the advantage of they're kind of training, you're giving yourself a new behavior to learn, which can be difficult for people because some pain can be tied in with people's behavior, both mentally and physical behavior combined together. And to train somebody to change that aspect of their life, there's a reason they got into the situation they are in the first place. So it can be quite difficult, and people can be quite resistant to it, but it seems to be one of the few effective techniques for certain types of chronic pain.
Wow. So it's never too late to start, right? For training, like
No,
how
as
to do
long
it.
as- No, any point, any time. As I said, I'm learning new techniques. I've been doing this for almost 25 years professionally, but this anesthesia thing, I've just found out about this, and I'm learning all the time about new and different techniques that are used by different cultures and different people. So I'm always opening up my mind to learn new things, and anybody can at any point learn to control their own inner state
Unbelievable.
at any point in their life, whether they're young. It's actually something a lot of times, usually as you're getting older, people kind of question their life patterns. When you're younger, you're kind of like in the moment, but as you get older, you might question, what is the meaning of life is an old question when you've had the whole kind of life experience. And then, but you can be young, you can be old, you can be any point. Is never a time when you can't learn to change your own mind.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable. And well, thank you for coming on, Tim Cridland. I appreciate it. It's an honor, and we hope to have you on again real soon.
All right. Thanks for thinking of me, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Tim Cridland, guys.